All right, everybody, welcome back to the Horn Takes podcast. I am your host, Sean Redfern. Happy Monday. I say happy Monday very begrudgingly, man. I am not a fan of Mondays. It's like the furthest we can get away from college football going forward. I hate it. I hate them. You got to go to work. It's ridiculous. However, it is awesome to be 4-0, and it is great to be the number one team in the country and having come off a game where the team played really, really well in a game where it could have been set up for them not to play really, really well. We'll do the after action review, which means we're going to do a Trace Otra games recap, and then we'll kind of wrap up our thoughts on the ULM win on Saturday. Check us out on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. You just like to listen to podcasts. Maybe you drive around. Maybe you fly a lot. Maybe you're a delivery driver. Can't really watch on YouTube, right? Because you're driving. Check us out on Apple Podcast, iHeart Podcast, Spotify Podcasts, or you can go to horntakespodcast.buzzsprout.com. Find all the episodes there. Trace Otra Games recap. So we were 6-0 coming into this week, and we picked some games that I don't think these were gimmies. And again, we try not to ever do gimmies. But these games I thought could easily go either way, at least two of them for sure. First game we did, number 11 USC at number 18 Michigan. Talked about it on Thursday last week when we did the predictions on these. A lot of people, almost exclusively, people expected USC to roll into the big house and just drop an ass kicking on Michigan. Michigan had struggled so much offensively. The defense perhaps didn't look as good as what a lot of people thought it would look. And that's just not what happened, folks. We talked about Orgy being the starting quarterback. They just named him the starting quarterback the day we did our picks. We thought they'd get him involved in the running game. Be another guy for the defense to have to account for, and they would start making some plays. Something, we just haven't seen this Michigan offense make a lot of plays. Well, it did open things up, and they did get some big plays on the ground. And we said, if Orgy can make some plays with his feet and throw some accurate passes, because that's the only thing I feel like that's kept him off the field. He's just been wildly inaccurate throwing the ball. We said we like Michigan to keep this one close with the defense, make a play late to get a win over USC. Man, I couldn't have predicted this one almost any better. I had Michigan 23-20 over USC. They win the game 27-24 with a late play after the defense kept it close all game long. It kind of got, man, this game actually had an opportunity to be a blowout for Michigan. And there was some big, big plays late in that game where they just didn't make the play. They got the fumble recovery. Dude gets stripped, gives the ball right back to USC. There was one other play I can't remember. USC made a lot of plays late in the game to come from behind, get the lead, and then Michigan did it one more time. And Michigan kind of did a pull your big boy panties up, let your nuts hang. And I know that doesn't make sense, but they're two phrases that mean the same thing to me. Like, just lay it out there. Fourth and a yard and a half, 4th and 2. And they say, man, we're just better than you for the win. Punch it in. A lot of people have looked pretty stupid the last 2 years with these Texas out of conference wins. This is the worst Alabama team Texas beat last year. Worst Alabama team in Nick Saban's history. That's what they said. Michigan's way down in a shell of their former self, which probably are if you look at the starters on that team. After they go into Michigan and beat them by 19. So I always knew Michigan was a pretty good team, especially defensively. The defense showed up when it needed to. The offense did just enough. And I think you're going to see this Michigan team. I'm not saying they're playoff bound. I'm just saying I think what you're going to see out of this Michigan team going forward is a really confident team that has finally done what they thought they all could do early in the season and beat a good team. Now you got the Aggies were all, oh, Michigan's going to get drugged by USC. Michigan's sorry. Now that they beat USC, now it's USC that's sorry. It's funny how the narrative changes. Well, 1-0 in week 4 so far. Number 12, Utah at number 14, Okie Light. This was a game that a lot of people shied away from picking probably because you didn't know if Cam Rising was playing. And I thought Cam Rising was going to play. I read an article that said he was going to play. And then on game day, they start talking about how he's a game day decision or a game time decision. And I was like, man, that's why I don't read articles. That's why I don't read, man. It's never right. But we said Utah is just always like this really tough team that just sort of wears you out for 4 quarters. They make the games just not fun on who they're playing. I had picked Utah at the beginning of before the season started to win the Big 12. I thought they'd go on the road and this was a big time like early Big 12 matchup. If you look at the Big 12, these are probably the 2 best teams at least so far this year in the Big 12. So it's a really early matchup between 2 of the best in the Big 12. One of them was going to get a leg up, the other one's going to be playing from behind. We thought Utah would do it. We got Utah 24-20. They end up winning it 22-19 without Cam Rising. Utah's going to go ahead and win the Big 12. Just letting y'all know that right now. Man, as soon as they announced they were going to the Big 12, I thought to myself, they're just going to run the Big 12. They just don't play. So we're 2-0 in week 4 of Trace Otra games. Headed to the final game, number 6 Tennessee at number 15 Oklahoma. Said I thought Oklahoma had a shot in this game, but they'd have to get a ton of pressure on that young quarterback at Tennessee, Nico. They'd have to dial him up, and they'd have to get some turnovers, and they'd have to steal some possessions. And I said the good thing about that is Brent Venables has been doing that a long time, dialing it up, putting pressure on quarterbacks, confusing them, and getting turnovers. I don't know if they got any turnovers in this game. But we said Jackson Arnold's going to have to show up 161 yards passing per game leading up to this game. He absolutely did not. He had, was it 1 interception and 2 fumbles? They yank him. I did say, though, I thought Oklahoma had a really good defense. And I said they'll keep this a lot more low scoring than a lot of people think. But I think Tennessee will pull away late. I had Tennessee 30-20 over Oklahoma. They did not pull away late. They actually let Oklahoma get back in the game, but this one wound up 25-15. I think that Oklahoma defense is really good. They are just an absolute mess offensively. But I think, you have a good defense, and I'm not ready to crown them. I think they just played a good game in that game, and I thought they've done that a little bit earlier this season. We'll see how they continue to hold up. What's going to hurt them, what starts to make the defense look bad is when the offense can't do anything. And I thought they were pretty good against a really powerful Tennessee offense, even with their offense not being able to do shit. This cat they bring in, Michael Hawkins Jr., he's a lot more dynamic to me than Arnold. Might be able to give him a little boost. I don't know. We haven't seen for sure if Arnold is out. There's a lot of buzz today that they're going back to Arnold, which I don't understand why everybody expected anything otherwise. Sometimes you pull your starting quarterback because they're stinking. And it doesn't mean they're never going to start again. Jackson Arnold certainly has not lived up to the hype. Sort of the unrealistic expectations that OU fans have heaped upon him over the last year. Be interesting to see who starts this weekend when Oklahoma travels to Auburn for another SEC matchup. So we 3-0 in week 4. That means we are 9-0 with Trace Otra games on the year. Folks, we're excited about that. And I honestly, I think I've picked some pretty difficult games. Not a lot of people had Michigan over USC. I can tell you that. And I didn't just do it to go against the grain. I really thought Michigan had a chance. And I really predicted that game like almost exactly the way it happened. So pat myself on the back. You win some, you lose some. I'm sure I'll pick one this year and it'll just be an absolute dud. It's the way it goes. After action review on ULM, we had Drunk Sean thoughts yesterday. 10 thoughts of Drunk Sean while he was watching the game. Today we have rewatched the game sober, and we have started looking at stats and things to kind of paint a better picture of what really went on in this game. Let's talk about it. Offensively, Texas has 497 total yards, 239 rushing yards on 52 attempts. That's 4.6 yards per carry and 5 touchdowns on the ground. That's pretty dominant. They had 258 passing yards, 15 of 29 for 51%, 2 touchdowns, 2 INTs. They were 7 of 13 on third down for 53%, 1 of 2 on fourth down for 50%. 7 for 7 in the red zone with 7 touchdowns. Man, that so far this year, Texas has been outstanding in the red zone offensively, and that is just something that they were not good at last year. For whatever reason, they could move the ball between the red zones like it was going out of style. When they would get down into the red zone, all sorts of issues. But they have looked really good so far in 2024, and they're going to have to keep that up because the level of play is about to go up for Texas. Maybe not this weekend, but here really quick after that, the level of competition is going to get a little bit tougher as they continue to move into that SEC schedule, that grind of an SEC schedule that we kept hearing Aggies talk about so often until this year, until the Texas schedule came out, and then all of a sudden, oh, that's an easy schedule. Texas offense gave up 1 sack. We mentioned the 2 interceptions. One of those just really, really bad. The other one, not his fault, at least not entirely. I would say, at worst, that was maybe like 5% his fault. Players that popped offensively, you cannot start without talking about Jaden Blue. This dude went off in his first game back from injury up in Michigan. 25 carries for 124 yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground, 5 yards per carry average. Man, he is just on the cusp of busting one too. Every time, it's like he gets these like caught up by these little ankle tackles sometimes, or he gets knocked down by one of his linemen. He bumps into one of his linemen and goes careening out of the way. You just look at it and you go, man, he's about to bust one. He is about to bust one. It's going to happen. He had 1 catch for 3 yards and a touchdown. Should have been a whole lot more. I mean, this could have been like a very well over 200-yard total yards type of night for Jaden Blue. Manning missed him twice on the wheel route. It would have been a touchdown both times. One of them very, very long. Silas Bolden, 3 catches for 37 yards, 2 outstanding catches, one at the beginning of the game and then one a little later in the second quarter, I believe. Replay overturned that long one. I still don't give a fuck. I didn't give a damn when I did my 10 drunk thoughts, and I still don't care. There was no way they should have overturned that. There was absolutely no, and I mean no, evidence, visual evidence, indisputable visual evidence that was not a catch. Oh, Bolden, man, he doesn't get a lot of opportunities, but when he gets them, he makes plays. It's just so hard to divvy up the touches with this many guys. And I, you know, you wonder if guys are going to get unhappy or if they stay okay. I think you keep throwing him the ball a couple times a game, and then he's in the return game. I think he's a guy that'll be okay. I'm not sure though, man. He kind of went from being like the main dude up in Oregon State to just being kind of another guy here. Not that he's not good, but there's a lot of good players at Texas. Ryan Wingo, another guy that popped for me offensively. He just continues to impress me. I I said it in drunk Sean thoughts. I think he might be the best wide receiver on this team, and I still think that. He had 2 catches for 42 yards and a touchdown. Got interfered with on a long one as well. Got to give some love to my man Colin Page. 10 carries for 60 yards in relief. This guy's a walk-on. I don't know where he played. I think somewhere in Austin. One of the high schools down in Austin, I believe. He's had a few pretty good little like late carries in some of these games where he just kind of goes off and he runs hard, man. And he's got good speed. Oh, Colin Page. They got to get Colin Page in the end zone at some point this season. Kind of honorable mention here is this is not a person, but the Texas deep ball. Man, does Manning like to push that ball down the field? And you like to see it. You think you just want him to kind of be a little more particular about when he goes down the field. He had 3 completions of over 25 yards or more in this game. But he threw the ball a lot down the field. And you can tell when he drops back, that's what he's looking to do. He is like, I want to make a big play, which I get. That's part of the learning experience. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Defensively, this is where, man, as good as the offense was and as sort of like flashy as the offense was in this game, the defense was just absolutely ridiculous. They allowed 111 total yards through 4 quarters of football. And here's the crazy part of this. ULM had 100 yards at halftime. So in 2 more quarters against third string, fourth string backups, they are only able to get 11 more yards. That's one of the things about this defense that's just been pretty amazing is it doesn't matter who they trot out there. They're just good. ULM, we talked about in the 4 keys in a prediction last week. They'd want to come in and run the ball. That's what they're good at. They had 25 attempts for 57 yards, so 2.3 yards per carry. They were 11 of 25 for 54 yards through the air with 2 INTs. They threw for 44% of their completions, completed 44% of their passes, 2.2 yards per attempt, 4.9 yards per completion. So this Texas defense just absolutely swallowed ULM. ULM was 2 for 12 on third down. That's 16%. Right at 16%. 1 for 1 on fourth down. They were 1 for 1 in the red zone. Got a field goal. Texas defense had 2 sacks, 2 interceptions. Lots of tackles for loss. Players that popped in this one, Anthill, 3 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 sack, a pick 6 that got called back because of a weak-ass penalty. I'm not saying you didn't push him in the back, man. I'm just saying, did that really affect the play? Probably not. Was it a dumb play? Probably. Does a lot worse stuff happen that y'all don't call? Yeah. We said it. We said it the other day, man. Anthill has not had a flashy year, but it's been really good. But the big plays are coming. We said it like Thursday or Friday. We said it. The big plays are coming. 1 sack, 1 pick 6. We're giving him that pick 6. He caught it and he ran it in the end zone. Pick 6, baby. Leonga Lafau, another guy out of that linebacker position that just popped off the screen. He just can. He's getting really good, man. This guy is going to be really good, but he already looks really good. He's just a sophomore. 7 tackles, 2 tackles for loss. He had a sack. He had a safety, or at least was part of the safety. Found out my man has an invisible G in his first name. I've been calling him Leona Lafau. It's Leonga Lafau. I'm going to never mess that up again. I apologize, young man. Keep it up. Drunk Sean said he's gonna put up some stuff. He's gonna put up some stats next year in an expanded role when David Benda moves on, hopefully to the NFL. David Benda is a guy that's also having a really good season, really quietly, but he's having a great season. Michael Taft, 5 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss. Man, he just flies around hitting people. He just has zero concern for his body. If I mean, we talked a couple weeks ago about Andrew Makuba just flying around. You see, like this dude comes shooting out of a cannon to make a play. Michael Taft is the same thing, except he gets really heavily involved in the run game. Michael Taft has turned into a really good player. I mean, he's been starting at Texas for this is his 3rd year. He was a walk on originally, and I got to admit, I was kind of just iffy on Michael Taft, but man, this year killing it. Honorable mention, we got to talk about that Texas defensive line. Tons of pressure on the quarterback. They can never get comfortable back there. All linebackers that got sacks, but the defensive line just made his life not easy. And then they ate up space all night long in the running game. They had 15 of Texas's 49 tackles. They had 2 tackles for loss. Kudos to that bunch. We talked heading into the season about the defensive line kind of being a question mark again. People weren't sure how are we going to replace Tavondre Sweat, how are we going to replace Byron Murphy. So far, Vernon Broughton and Alfred Collins are doing an outstanding job, and then those transfer guys that have come in have done a pretty damn good job as well. You got guys like Aaron Bryant, Alex January, younger players that are getting some PT in some of these big blowouts, and they're having pretty good games. Special teams, I still say Bolden's gonna get loose a couple times this season. He's just warming up. If someone makes a mistake with a punt and gives that dude a little bit of room, and we cannot get a penalty because we've been having a lot of penalties on these dadgum returns, he's gonna bust one for 6. Thought Michael Kern had a really good game punting, 45.5 yards per punt on 2 punts, landed both of them inside the 20. One of them set up the safety late in the game. So it's a weapon when you can peg the ball inside the 10-yard line. Offensive teams just seem to lose their mind if they're inside the 10, inside the 5 for sure. There's like so much pressure to not make a mistake that they just kind of go into a shell. And I think they wind up hurting themselves because they almost always go 3 and out in those situations. So I guess if we're talking special teams, the player that popped would be Michael Kern, and that's fine with me. Was Drunk Sean wrong? Maybe a little. I thought the run game was utilized pretty heavily. It absolutely was. I don't think it was. It was. Even late, when Drunk Sean was like, why are we passing? Why are we passing up by 30? We were still running the ball quite a bit. Sark loves that balance, and he usually stays really balanced. I really need to work on my distrust of Sark's utilization of the running game. I think I just still have PTSD from like 2022 when we would just inexplicably be throwing the ball all over the damn place with a brand new starting quarterback when we just been running the ball down people's throats. And the one that really sticks out to me is that Oklahoma State game. I don't know what the hell we were doing in the second half of that game. A lot of it was penalties. We had a lot of motion penalties and stuff like that in that game. That's the infamous. How in the world could Texas have 12 penalties and Oklahoma State only has one game? I think like 9 or 10 of those 12 penalties were procedure penalties on the offense or the defense, and those aren't judgment calls. Like you did it. And then you move forward a little bit further that year, that Baylor game that they won late in the season at home. I think it was the final home game of the season, where he just completely took the ball out of Quinn Ewers' hands and they just ran it the whole second half. Ended up coming back and winning that one. So anyway, it's almost never as bad as I think it is when I'm watching the game live, but I don't know. I'm going to work on it. I said that 2 weeks ago and I didn't work on it. I got to work on it. I need to like put some low hanging fruit type goals around this and go meet them. But I think Drunk Sean was pretty well on point on most of the other stuff that we talked about on Sunday. Final thoughts. I think Texas did almost everything you could have hoped they would do in this game. Our 4 keys in a prediction, our 4 keys were show up, stop the run, establish the run early, and take the ball away. I think this was 4 quarters of an ass kicking. This team never let up. And like I said earlier, they sent a bunch of guys out. A lot of guys got a lot of playing time. At the end of that game, defensively, we had a lot of young guys on the field. 3rd stringers, 4th stringers. Offensively, we had a bunch of walk-ons on the field. We had a backup offensive line that was still in there making holes, still protecting. I think from a show up and be focused perspective, you could not expect any more out of this Texas team so far this year. They stopped the run, 2.3 yards per carry, 57 yards for a team that was averaging over 200 yards per game on the ground. I mean, they just absolutely buttoned them up. I said I thought Texas needed to establish the run early, kind of protect Arch a little bit. Plus, they should just be able to do it. 9 of the first 16 plays were run plays. They got 38 yards and a touchdown. It's pretty good. Little over 4 yards per carry. So you keep doing that 1, 2, 3. You got 10, 12 yards and you got a first down. I mean, I think they wasn't exactly what I meant by establish the run game early, but I think Sark came out and did that. And then, of course, take the ball away. Something that Louisiana Monroe hadn't done yet this season was turn the ball over, and Texas took it away from them twice. I think Texas leads the SEC in interceptions so far, 7 interceptions so far this season through 4 games, which has got to certainly be up there in the national rankings. I think Arch had himself a learning experience on Saturday night. Man, that one interception was just bad. He just sort of threw it up for grabs. I think he takes way too many hits. I think part of that is because I think he works kind of the opposite of Quinn Ewers. You watch Arch play, and he's looking deep and then coming back to the check down. You watch Quinn play, Quinn's going to take whatever the defense gives him pre-snap, and he's going to make a play, and it's usually something short or intermediary. So to me, Quinn's looking check down to deep, and Manning's looking deep to check down. Because of that, he holds on to the ball for a while. That protection can't always hold up. He's dangerous on play action, getting the ball down the field. I really like that. I think we've been missing the deep ball. I think, Sark said it. He thinks Arch Manning throws the deep ball better than Quinn, and the deep ball has been something that Quinn, unfortunately, just hasn't gotten too good at in his 3 years. I think he's better. He's better than year 1, but it's still not something that's like automatic. And I'm talking like the guys that are open. So I like that Arch likes to push the ball down the field. I wish Quinn would do that a little more. But it's hard to argue with Quinn's numbers so far this year. He can just take the team right down the field in almost no time at all and get 7. Whereas Arch, I'm not saying he can't do that as well, but he's looking to get huge chunks. I don't know. It'll be kind of interesting to see when Quinn comes back, like what watching Arch Manning do pushing the ball down the field has done to his mental side of the game. because I do think Arch overdoes it just a little bit. There's a happy medium there. We need to find it with Quinn and Arch. This Texas team is so deep and physical in the trenches. I know I've been saying it a lot this season, but man, there's 10 O linemen that can play. There are 5 edge guys that get a lot of PT. You got 5 to 6 interior defensive linemen that are rotating in and out the whole game. And that's how you win games. You keep throwing bodies in there in the trenches that are physically good. And there's not a lot of drop off when these other guys come into the game, if any. That is how you win big boy football. And that's why this Texas team is built to go compete in the SEC, compete on a national level. That's why they went up to the big house and just ran the ball all over Michigan and threw the ball all over Michigan and stopped Michigan from doing any of those two things. They're really, really good in the trenches. I think the depth of this team just across the board, there's almost zero drop off. I mean, it does not matter who's out there. They're good in making plays. And plays are coming from all different types of dudes from all over the place on both sides of the ball. The offense can pretty much do whatever it wants, whenever it wants. The defense is like a pack of killer bees. They're fast, they arrive in bunches, and they basically just destroy their target. Like this Texas defense is tackling really well right now, and it's tackling with a lot of guys. There's a lot of hats around the football. There's not a lot to look at this Texas team and say, man, I'm just disappointed in that, or I wish this would be better. Texas takes on Mississippi State this Saturday at 3:15 p.m. on the SEC network is opener for Texas in SEC play. First SEC game will be a home game. They are a 38-point favorite in this game, folks. I think it's Will Shapen, the quarterback for former Baylor quarterback for Mississippi State is out for the season. I saw that is really unfortunate because of a bad SEC team, bad Mississippi State team is probably just a lot worse now without their starting quarterback. So I wonder if Quinn plays this weekend. I wonder, should Quinn play this weekend? Coach Sark said that his injury they made a lot of progress with his injury over the last week. So presumably he could be ready to go this Saturday. I wonder if they get him a little bit of action this Saturday, take the bye week, and then let him heal up completely for OU. I don't know. We'll see. I think I lean more towards there's no sense in playing him. If you don't need him, why risk it? Is kind of what I think. It's kind of how I feel about it. Arch is doing fine, even though he didn't have that great of a game on Saturday. It was still a really good game. I mean, there was definitely bright spots in that game. It just wasn't the game he had coming off the bench. And we talked about that. The difference between coming off the bench and being the starter all week, it's a big difference. There's a lot there's just some sort of like mental thing about that makes it different. I think this stretch of games after this Mississippi State game, a little precarious. Got the Red River shootout. Who knows what the hell will happen in that one? You got Georgia at home. Who knows what the hell will happen in that one? And you go on the road to Vandy, and Vandy kind of had a little bit of reason to strut this year so far. Besides that Georgia State game, how do you how do you how do you go to Missouri and take them to the wire, but lose to Georgia State? And I think they lost that game at home. Man, folks, I don't. I'll say it again, man. I don't think this Mizzou team is that good. We've seen them really struggle the last 2 weeks when they're not playing a nobody so far this season. Now they may get it. They may get it going. I'm not. They're capable, but they have not looked good. I still think they are living off of just a really overrated win against an Ohio State team that wasn't the same Ohio State team that played all season. I don't know. We'll see. Be interesting to see what happens to that bunch the rest of the season. But, man, you could go on the road and mess up against Vandy. You could. They seem a lot more, like, talented and competitive at least, which is something that, Vandy just really hasn't been. Check us out. We will be back on Tuesday. I'm not sure what the show is going to be about. I got to find since I'm doing this drunk 10 thoughts, Sean drunk thoughts on Sunday now. I got to find something to do on Tuesday, but I don't know what I'll do yet. We'll think of something. We don't have much time. We'll think of something. Find us on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. Give us a subscribe or a follow. Won't cost you guys a thing, but I sure would appreciate any support you guys are willing to give. You can email at horntakespodcast@gmail.com with all your questions, comments, concerns, and criticisms. ULM put to bed. We start SEC play this weekend. Hope you guys have a great rest of the week. Check out the shows. We got 3 more to go this week. Y'all get hooked.